We're only 5 years into the decade so far, and I have seen 33 superhero movies released from 2020 all the way till 2025, so here is my ranking of all of them from worst to best. And I gotta say, putting this entire ranking together has made me realize just how bad superhero movies have been for the last couple of years. In dead last place, I'm gonna go with Black Adam. This film has absolutely zero redeeming qualities. The Rock has zero charisma in this movie, which is like the only thing he has as an actor, so for some reason they give him no personality in this film. All the action scenes look like a bad video game cutscene, and it is just a chore to sit through. The fact that he was going to be the face of DC going forward instead of James Gunn at one point in time is absolutely mind-blowing to me. In 32nd place is Wonder Woman 1984. Now, the first Wonder Woman movie is perfectly mediocre, even though Gal Gadot is a terrible actress. In this film, everything is just terrible. At number 31, I'm going with the legend himself, Morbius. Why on earth they were giving a C-tier Spider-Man villain a solo film without Spider-Man in it, I'll never know, and throwing in Jared Leto in the lead role was just a recipe for disaster. And for some reason, this is like the most boring and sanitized vampire movie to ever exist. Like, the violence is incredibly boring. There's no romance or anything, which is like the central plot of all vampire storylines. This is just a pointless film. And number 30 is another one from the Sonyverse of movies with Madame Web. The only reason it's even higher than the other films on this list is because visually, I actually think this film is like shot pretty well. Like, the cinematography looks pretty decent in sometimes, but this story is just a complete disaster. What's bizarre about this movie is if it was actually about her being Madame Web and all these other characters on the poster being Spider-Woman, there could have been something here. Like, yes, it would have still been bad, but instead they have the entire movie focusing around her just being like a regular person that can see like 5 seconds into the future. That's her only power. Nobody else in this movie actually becomes a Spider-Woman. It's only at the very end of the film she has a vision of the future, and that's where you see, oh, they're wearing the suits. One day they'll become like the Spider-Woman. Like, they were so confident they were going to get a sequel for this thing somehow. And number 29 is Joker Folie à Deux, one of the most disappointing movies of all time. Now, it seemed like it was going to be a disaster ever since they announced it was going to be a musical, but I was kind of defending this film. I was like, you know what? The first Joker movie was really good. I'm all on board for whatever they want to do. Get really weird and twisted in this new sequel. Sure, make it a musical. I don't care. But this film was just absolutely horrible. First of all, the ending is just a complete disaster. The movie thinks it's so smart when it's not. And the entire story just feels really jumbled because, like I said, it was going to be a musical, and there was about like 18 songs announced to be in this film. But in the final product, there's maybe like 3 or 4 musical sequences, which really just feels super out of place. So they obviously were not committed to the idea, cut a lot of the things out. So the end product is just this jumbled mess of like a half musical that feels super out of place, a terrible story. I do think these two are giving good performances, but that's about it. At number 28 is Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I wasn't even that high in the first Shazam movie. I think it's fine, but a lot of the comedy really didn't land for me. I didn't get the huge appeal to it, so I finally feel like I was proven right when this movie came out and was just a complete disaster. There's really one reason to watch this movie, and it's not Zachary Levi as Shazam, that's for sure. 27 is Eternals, which I'm not gonna lie, putting it next to all these other films does feel a little bit brutal, but I don't care because yes, on a filmmaking level, this is a well-made film. Like, visually, the cinematography, it's a good-looking movie. Chloe Zhao knows what she's doing, but this is one of the most boring films I've ever seen in my life. I'm sorry. So many characters in this movie, and none of them have time to be developed in this incredibly long runtime because we're constantly bouncing back and forth between a bunch of different people. Thena is literally the only interesting character in this entire film, honestly. There's like one decent action sequence with the speedster in this film. Everything else you can just completely throw away. Just a snooze fest of a film. Number 26 is The Flash. Do you remember when every single person in Hollywood, like James Gunn and Tom Cruise, were coming out and saying, oh my god, The Flash is like the greatest thing ever. It is just redefining superhero cinema. I don't know what they were on or how they got paid to say that, but that was just simply not true. An absolutely ugly movie, basically doesn't even have a real villain in it, which is a huge problem. I do think some of the stuff between like Barry and the relationship with his mom, I think some of that stuff's actually decent, but the two Barry Allens gets really old really fast. He's so annoying in this film. Maybe there's some okay stuff with like Michael Keaton returning as Batman and this version of Supergirl, but again, they're kind of just like background stuff there to be like, oh look it, we have cameos in this movie, come and watch it. Number 25 is Venom: The Last Dance. I'm a huge defender of the first Venom movie, and I even think the second one is fun, even though it's still a bad film. This one, everything just fell apart. I don't know what went wrong with it. It is so unbelievably corny. Venom's barely even in most of the movie. Like, it's just Tom Hardy walking around because of some stupid plot device they have where he can't turn into Venom. And the ending scene is supposed to be taken so seriously, but it is ironically one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. they really just completely lost the plot with this one. And number 24, hey, look at Sony is back on here again with another one of their Spider-Man spin-off films. This time it's Kraven the Hunter. Now, I do think some of the actual action scenes in this movie are fine, and I actually like Aaron Taylor Johnson as this character, but the script is just as terrible as like Morbius or Madam Web. He can't save it. The fact that it took him this many movies in, and Kraven the Hunter was the one that were like, you know what, oh, this isn't actually working, having this Sony spin-off universe is kind of insane. Like, I don't know how they got past Morbius and Madam Web and thinking like, you know what, there's still potential here. And number 23 is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. This movie was such a letdown because the first two Ant-Man films are just really fun and funny films in my opinion, like some of the funniest MCU films ever made. Paul Rudd obviously is just super charming. The ex-cons were an absolute blast. For some reason though, this movie's like, you know what would be cool? Let's just abandon the ex-cons, who are some of the funniest side characters in the MCU, go into the quantum realm that looks absolutely horrible visually, and just give you a terrible jumbled film. This has definitely hurt now even more looking back on it now that King has been completely abandoned, because now he's kind of just this like one-off villain that appears in this and Loki and gets defeated by a bunch of ants. Number 22 is The Marvels, kind of the definition of everything that went wrong with the MCU after Endgame, because you have two characters from separate TV shows, being Miss Marvel from her own series and obviously Monica Rambeau from WandaVision, both combining in this one movie, and it was just a complete mess. I do think the chemistry between these three characters was fine, but the movie is just really nothing remarkable. One of the most forgettable villains we've ever seen in a Marvel film, and really just not good on any level. And number 21 is Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. Margot Robbie is obviously a perfect casting as this character, but this movie is just kind of a mess overall. Like, all the supporting characters are really underdeveloped, not funny at all, and I do like Ewan McGregor as the Black Mask in this film, but otherwise just very mediocre. Number 20 is Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. I actually really like the first Aquaman film. It's one of my favorite DCEU movies, which isn't saying a lot because the DCEU was pretty bad, but I thought it was a lot of fun. It looked pretty good visually, and this film definitely has some of those moments, but overall a lot weaker than the first one. Number 19 is Thor: Love and Thunder. Now, I know this seems high up on the list, but again, pretty much all these films I've gone over so far are pretty bad. Like, I think this movie is a little bit overhated. There's some okay moments. The biggest crime this movie commits is just being unfunny and having so many jokes that don't land. Gore is legitimately a great top-tier MCU villain. I just wish the rest of the film matched the tone of whenever he was on screen, or at least the tone of Thor Ragnarok, and took itself a little bit more serious, because they really wasted him. Number 18 is Venom: Let There Be Carnage. This is just the definition of a purely dumb film, worse than the first Venom in a lot of ways, but at least Woody Harrelson as Carnage himself is a lot of fun. Number 17 is Captain America: Brave New World. Now we're getting to the tier of movies that are just super mid and mediocre in my opinion, not really bad in any ways. Like, I don't think this movie is as terrible as a lot of people say, but there's also really not that much good about it. There's like one cool action sequence in it. I do think Harrison Ford is trying to give you something interesting with Red Hulk. He's the best character in this film, but overall it's just incredibly bland to look at. The story's kind of boring. I don't know why this is like a continuation of the Incredible Hulk 20 years later. It just makes no sense. The weirdest thing about it is that Anthony Mackie is like the most charismatic dude you've ever seen if you watch any interviews of him, but some reason for their version of Captain America with him, they just do not let any of that charisma shine through. I think that's a big mistake. Number 16 is Batman Ninja versus the Yakuza League. This just randomly dropped earlier this year. I didn't even know what this was or even seen the first Batman Ninja movie, but it pretty much takes place in an alternate universe where Batman's fighting an evil version of the Justice League. Some of the animation and character designs are cool, just not really my thing. Number 15 is Black Widow. This movie is very flawed in my opinion. The villain is absolutely terrible. Taskmaster is completely butchered in the film. I do think the stuff with Black Widow herself and the family really works well. Yelena kind of steals the show from her, honestly is the best character in this film. And it's really just a movie that came out way too late. This should have came out right around like the Civil War, Winter Soldier era, before Black Widow actually died in the MCU. Would have been 10 times better. Number 14 is Blue Beetle, a film honestly kind of similar to Black Widow. The strongest part about this entire movie is the family dynamic. Otherwise, it's a very kind of generic superhero story. It does seem like this character and this casting is going to stay around in the new DCU, or at least that's what James Gunn was saying originally. Who knows if that's still the plan. 13, we still got a few more mid films before we actually start getting to ones that I really like from this decade so far. I got Wakanda Forever. I think this is the best Ryan Coogler really could have done, with the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman having to move on to a new Black Panther, but the film definitely struggles because of that tragedy, obviously. Like, it's just a very long, bloated movie. There's great moments in it, like Namor, everything with the Talakan I think is really good. I am really excited to see what they do with Namor going forward in Avengers Doomsday, and I do think Shuri is a good Black Panther. It's just kind of hard to live up to Chadwick Boseman, who was absolutely perfect. Number 12 is a deeply flawed movie in the multiverse of madness. Sam Raimi tries his best to put his stamp on this film, and you can definitely see his influence on some of the visuals and story elements of this movie, but it definitely had the studio stepping and making a very corporate feeling, being like, oh, you got to put in these multiverse cameos. I do love Wanda. I think her being the villain of this movie is incredible. A great performance from Elizabeth Olsen. I don't think Doctor Strange himself is honestly that good of a character in this movie, which is a major problem. Number 11 is finally a movie I would just call straight up good, and that's Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. I absolutely love this introduction to the character. I think Simu Liu is perfect as him. This movie also has some of the best practical fight scenes we've ever seen in the MCU. The camera work is really creative, and I'm super excited that this director is coming over to do Spider-Man Brand New Day, bringing a lot of the same crew over. So hopefully Spider-Man Brand New Day is going to look incredible. My biggest problem with this movie is the big CGI fight at the end. Kind of erases some of the stuff at the beginning, but I do really love everything between him and his father. A really solid film. Number 10 is Deadpool and Wolverine. I'll never let you guys convince me that this movie's terrible like the internet wants you to think. It is obviously an incredibly dumb film, but it knows it's dumb. It's super funny. I laughed so many times watching this movie. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have great kind of opposing chemistry in this, just bickering the entire film. And I know a lot of people say, oh, this is just like a cameo nostalgia fest with no story, which is partially true, but I actually think the story here isn't bad. All the cameos that come back actually have a good role in the movie and have a good moment to themselves to shine. Just a really fun time. Number 9 is Spider-Man No Way Home. Watching this in theaters for the first time was one of the best theater experiences of all time. Seeing Toby and Andrew, that they were actually in this film, super special moment, and I still think everything with them in the movie works super well. The entire second half of the film, when the Green Goblin is just allowed to shine, give you a great villain performance. This movie is great. Only reason it's lower is because I don't love the first hour. Everything with Doctor Strange and the first villains kind of coming in feels super sloppy in my opinion, and honestly not that great. Like I mentioned, I think the second half is really strong. I absolutely love the ending. It gives us some of the best just pure Spider-Man moments of all time, and I'm super excited to see how they go forward with Spider-Man Brand New Day based on the ending of this film. Number 8 is our newest release, The Fantastic Four: First Steps. I do think this is a really good movie. Obviously, it's the 8th best superhero film of the decade. I do have some problems with it, but for the most part, this is just a really solid film. Absolutely love all the set and costume designs. The entire retro futuristic vibe is incredible. Casting across the board is really great. Like, Joseph Quinn's the only one I wasn't sure about going into the film, and he ended up being one of my favorite characters in the entire film. I do think each of the characters kind of needed a little bit more time to shine, especially like Silver Surfer and Galactus. If the film just had like 15 to 20 more minutes of runtime, it would be honestly close to perfect. The second half just feels a little bit weaker, kind of rushed in some places. Some things are a little too convenient for me, but otherwise a really enjoyable film. Like the space sequence earlier in the film, the entire chase scene with the Silver Surfer, absolutely peak. Number 7, this might be surprising to a lot of you guys because I absolutely hate on Man of Steel and BVS all the time, but it's actually Zack Snyder's Justice League. I do think this movie weirdly works so well. It's like 100 times better than the original Justice League film. Is it kind of obnoxious that this is almost 4 hours long? Should have just been like a mini series or something instead? Probably. But when Zack Snyder is allowed to have this long of a runtime, fully tell his vision, not be held back by any studio restraints, I do think he actually has potential to make a really good story with these characters. All these characters really get great moments. It's an absolutely gorgeous looking film, and like, yeah, I'm not mad that the universe is being rebooted because this is like the only Zack Snyder DCEU project I do like, and it wasn't even officially released until like years after it was already kind of ending, but this is a really great movie in my opinion. At number 6, I have Thunderbolts. I simply just cared about all these characters so much more than I could have ever imagined. They all have like great moments in the film, great emotional arcs. I think this movie is also super funny. The soundtrack is incredible. I love how many practical fight scenes there are in this film. Bob and Sentry is like one of my favorite new MCU characters and villains of all time. He was handled so perfectly in this film, and it's just a really tight film. Like, there's really no flaws with it, honestly. At number 5, I have James Gunn's The Suicide Squad. This is probably one of the funniest superhero films of all time. Like, there are so many jokes in this film, and almost all of them land for me. This group of characters together is just so likable. The action's incredible, and like all James Gunn movies, it's just super colorful, full of life, some great music in it, just a great time. Number 4 is another James Gunn movie. It's Superman. I absolutely love this film. It feels like a comic book come to life. I love how fantastical this entire movie is. Every single character was perfectly cast in my opinion. Like, David Cornsweet is just the definitive Superman, right up there with Christopher Reeve. The movie does move incredibly fast, but I don't feel like anything's actually rushed. Like, I feel like it moves at a proper pace where you're just going along with this story. It's just an absolute blast from start to finish, and I'm super excited to see the future of the DCU going forward. I have full trust in James Gunn after seeing this movie. This is kind of becoming a James Gunn glaze fest because at number 3 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but I'm sorry. First of all, there hasn't been that many good superhero movies this entire decade, and James Gunn is just one of the best superhero directors, if not the best of all time. So he's going to be high on this list, of course, and this movie is absolutely perfection. Like, the movie's just as funny as the first two Guardians films, but it also dials up the emotional elements to 11. Like, everything with Rocket gets me every single time. It's just so powerful, honestly. The soundtrack's just as incredible as ever. Every single character gets their moment to shine and a perfect ending to their story. James Gunn truly crafted a perfect ending with this movie. Before the top two, drop a like on the video and let me know in the comments below your top 3 favorite superhero movies of the decade, or you can do a big list like this if you want. And number 2, I have Across the Spider-Verse. This film is an absolute masterpiece from start to finish. Some of the best animation I've ever seen in my life. The soundtrack from Metro Boomin, I still listen to songs from it to this day. I just love how much this entire movie is focusing on the relationship between Miles and Gwen, and Miles just being like this entire anomaly. It just works so perfectly, separates itself from all the other Spider-Man movies we've ever gotten before. I cannot wait to see how they cook with Beyond the Spider-Verse, even though it's still 2 years away. And at number 1, really it's super close between this and Spider-Verse, but I'm giving it to The Batman. This is another just absolute masterpiece. Matt Reeves fully cooked this version of Gotham, feels so alive. The movie's absolutely gorgeous. Of course, you have Greg Fraser doing the cinematography. He's incredible. I love how we're finally getting Detective Batman in a movie. This is just a full-on like murder mystery. Riddler, so creepy and unsettling. Great performance from Paul Dano. An absolute perfect movie all throughout. Getting the Batman Part 2 and Beyond the Spider-Verse in 2027 is going to be crazy. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching the entire video. I've been going crazy with a bunch of Fantastic Four and Superman related films and rankings. If you want to see all those, click one of the playlists for all my Marvel or DC videos on screen right now.